Hello everybody, my name is Margaret Flaherty and I am a supervisor guide with the National Parks and Wildlife Service based at Wild Nephin National Park, which is also the Mayo Dark Sky Park. Here you've got a visitor looking up at the dark skies and the starry skies above the Claggan Mountain Coastal Trail, which is in the National Park. So what's special about Mayo's Dark Sky Park? Well, it's the first dark sky park in Ireland and it was awarded gold tier status in 2016. The lands below the Dark Sky Park are also the national park. So it's a wonderful place with mountains, bogs and forests. And it's a really nice place to explore during the daytime with lots of different biodiversity. But half our park is after dark. And there's a lot of nocturnal biodiversity that makes its home in the national park. So nocturnal biodiversity includes various types of animals that come out at night to hunt, to mate, or to avoid predators. And here we see a selection of the types of nocturnal biodiversity that we get in the national park and the Dark Sky Park. So we have badgers coming out to eat earthworms that come to the surface at night time. We have bats that have adapted to feeding using sound, echolocation. We have things like woodcock and snipe that are active in twilight hours and at night. Pine marten are feeding on things like mice and shrews that are more active at night. You're probably all familiar with moths. So most of the moths that we have in Ireland would be nocturnal. We do have a lot of day flying moths as well, but people associate moths with nighttime. And then we have things like smooth newts, which are amphibians that live in our bog pools, and they are more active at night too. So the dark matters. And when we have lots of light pollution, what we're doing is the darkness is disappearing and we're turning the nighttime into day, which can cause serious problems for our nocturnal biodiversity. And anybody living in towns and villages where there's a lot of lights on at nighttime would probably be familiar with hearing bird song at night. So this really confuses the animals. Birds that are singing throughout the day and throughout the night are losing a lot of energy that they could be using to feed, and they need to rest at night time. So it can become a big problem. Other issues with having a lot of lights on at night is it attracts things like moths and other invertebrates. So they're attracted to the unnatural lights, our artificial lights, and that's taking them away from other work that they should be doing, like pollinating our plants. Another phenomena, and also related to taking invertebrates away from where they otherwise would be in the wider countryside, is this this issue like with predators that are feeding on those invertebrates. So here you can see the moths are crowded around the light, and that may bring bats. Some bats don't mind the light, and they're coming to the light to feed on these invertebrates. And then these bats become more visible to predators, so they may get predated on. And then we have bats over on the other side that are keeping well away from the light, so they're avoiding the light, but their food has all gone towards the light. So we're disrupting the natural distribution of our invertebrates in the night sky. Another interesting thing from that phenomenon is animals using lights to navigate. And here we have a picture of a great diving beetle, and you find these great diving beetles in bog pools. We actually get lots of these in our little bog pool at the Ballycroy Visitor Centre in the National Park. And what they do is they will move from bog pool to bog pool, to search for mates or to look for other resources for feeding. And they use the light of the moon reflecting off these bog pools to find a new bog pool. But if you see in the photograph here, we have the moon, which would shine on a wet surface like a bog pool, but it also shines on wet roads. And the great diving beetle can often confuse the wet roads in a town or village for a bog pool. So when it lands there, it effectively has used lots of energy to get to where it thought it needed to go, but ended up in a very hostile environment for it. So it's not arrived at its destination. So this is a very simple example of what can happen when we've got artificial light and it's affecting species that are moving from place to place, relying on the natural lights of the moon to navigate. And this happens with birds as well. So it just goes to show you how it's so important that we have places like dark sky parks, or where we're protecting the nocturnal biodiversity by keeping the skies naturally dark. For those of you that might be interested in visiting the national park, here is a map showing the extent of the park. So just up in the corner there, you'll see a little yellow dot in the northwest corner of Mayo. And here we've got, to the north of the park, we have Bangor Erris. To the south, we've got Mulranny. And then just over here to the southeast, we have Newport. The light blue colour in the centre of that area is the extent of the national park, and the sky above that is the Mayo Dark Sky Park. And we have 3 recommended viewing points for the dark sky. We've got the Ballycroy Visitor Centre, the Claggan Mountain Coastal Trail, the image you saw at the beginning of this presentation, and then we've got the Robert Lloyd Prager Centre, or it's a stone bothy in the Letterkeene Forest. And those 3 locations are open all the time for visitors to come and explore during the daytime, but also at nighttime to view the night sky. Now, you don't need to come to the Dark Sky Park or the National Park to enjoy nocturnal biodiversity. If you're lucky enough to have a garden at your house, or to live in an area where you've got some nice habitats nearby for wildlife, you can come across a lot of nocturnal biodiversity around your homes. So you might see tracks or signs in your garden of biodiversity, nocturnal biodiversity, like footprints or droppings. Earthworms are very active at night, so they come to the surface to feed at night. And then because you're getting some invertebrates in your gardens, you will find that you might attract some hedgehogs, some bats that are looking for insects. You might have some wood mice. Again, having these kind of these rich gardens or rich habitats in urban areas does attract things like owls as well. So you mightn't see the owl, but you'll hear it. People have some foxes come into their gardens as well. And then, of course, there's moths. So on your big sleep out, you might come across some of this biodiversity. And I guess to increase your chances of seeing them, if you remain very, very quiet and still, you might come across some of the wonderful nocturnal biodiversity that we have here in Ireland. So thank you very much for listening. We'd love to see you at the National Park and Dark Sky Park at some stage, but the most important thing is just to get out and enjoy some of that wonderful nighttime wildlife that we have. Thanks again for listening.